Hello, greetings from Colorado Springs. My name is Lance Kohler. I'm the president of the Cornerstone Real Estate Team. Today I'd like to talk to you about inspections. Inspections of your rental property. Undoubtedly, inspections are important. You as an owner, if you're researching property management companies, or even if you're managing your own property, you know that you want to conduct inspections. So for most families, most owners, the investment property is the largest investment they have, the largest or the highest value investment that they have. And so you certainly want to inspect to make sure that the property is being taken care of, that there are no maintenance items that need to be resolved, that there are no broken windows or leaking pipes, and so on and so forth. So undoubtedly, inspections are very important. But how often, and how often is too much? And so oftentimes we'll get a new client, maybe new to property management or new to being an investment owner, and they ask for quarterly inspections. They want us to go in every 90 days to their property. And so there are some considerations I'd like you to think about with a quarterly inspection. First off is what would be acceptable to you as a renter. So if you can remember back before you were an investment property owner, maybe you rented. And if you didn't before that, just put yourself in the renter's shoes. So how often do you want somebody to come through inspecting your property, looking in every room of your home? So as a renter, yes, they don't own the property, but it is their home. That's where they live, and that's how you want them to treat it. You want them to treat it like their home. But I would say, from my perspective and perspective of other tenants that I've talked to, 90 days seems intrusive. And so your balance there is keeping tabs on your property, and then under consideration is looking at length of tenancy. Because if a tenant feels that the owner or the landlord, the property management company, is always digging through their business, the likelihood of them remaining in place or extending their lease and staying for a longer term is low. And for you as an owner, you will typically lose money, whether it's vacancy time or repairs for fair wear and tear, et cetera, during a turnover between tenants. And so longer vacancies are to your advantage. I will tell you, I worked briefly for another company that required quarterly inspections, and it wasn't. It was uncomfortable for me as a property manager to come look at this property every 90 days when very little changed, and it was I guess borderline intrusive on the tenant's part. So we don't do quarterly inspections, and I'll talk a little bit more why. So I talked about length of tenancy as a consideration. The other one is legal consideration. So yes, you have ownership. As the owner, you have ownership of the property. The tenant has possession, and there's a right to quiet enjoyment that comes with the lease, and that is for the tenant, that you're not going to be, they're not going to be intruded upon. Again, that's their home. And so you may be pushing the boundaries of that if you're doing quarterly inspections. And that would depend on a complaint or a lawsuit filed on the behalf of the tenant toward the owner. I mean, hopefully it would never get to that point, but that's a consideration. The other piece is the time involved. And what I say with that is kind of back to the perspective as a property management company. The time involved in doing an inspection and doing it right. When we do inspections, we document everything we do. You file a report. The inspection itself is probably going to take an hour or more, depending on the size of the home, and then filing the report. So there's a lot of time involved. If we were to say, hey, we're going to inspect every property quarterly, right now we're, at the time of this video, we're managing 450 units. If we did one of those inspections every 90 days, that's 1,800 inspections in a year, each one taking an hour or more, and there's only 365 days in the year. So we might be doing nothing but inspections if that's what we did. So what we recommend, if you're an owner interviewing property management companies, is that you focus on the move-in, move-out, and some sort of periodic inspection. So the move-in inspection is, of course, important because that's where you establish, you as the owner, renting out your own place, or for us as the property management company, we establish the condition of the property at the time that the tenant moved in. So that's photos and a written report, typically, very detailed, so that we have no question on what the condition of the property was when the tenants moved in. The second of that is a move-out inspection, and so that's where you're documenting damage or lack of damage and cleanliness, etc., in the property after the tenant moves out. So you have the two reports to review, and you can compare back and forth to ensure that no damage was done, or commend the tenants on giving you back the property in the same condition that they got it, and you can speedily send them their security deposit. And then at some point, some periodic inspection. So whether that's every 6 months, 90 days before the end of the lease, to determine if you're going to offer an extension, something to that effect. I'll tell you, for us here, we do an inspection usually 45 to 90 days after a tenant moves in. We found that's a very good time to check on the condition of the property, make sure that if there are any questions the tenant has, like maybe they moved in the summertime and now it's starting to get fall, they have questions about how the thermostat works, or you can remind them how to change the furnace filter. You can remind them where the shutoff is to the water main in case there's a leak. You can check under the cabinets and make sure there's no pipes leaking, etc. And then we, if that initial inspection is favorable and everything's in good shape, we typically don't go back to the property until about 60 days before the lease ends, and we do another inspection before we determine if there's going to be a lease extension or the tenant's going to move out, that sort of thing. So that's what I mean by periodic inspection. So that's what we recommend. We don't do quarterly inspections, and we don't recommend it. We just feel like that's a little too frequent. But certainly if we were to identify that there were issues with maintaining the property or cleanliness in the property or something along those lines, we would adjust that schedule so that we would be at the property, in the property more frequently. Hope that was helpful. I hope that information is of value to you. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.